Welcome back to another episode of Joel Explores Tech. Today I'm doing things a little bit differently, both with me being on camera as well as switching up the set that I've been using to film. Previously I had a lower conference table or a dining room table kind of setup and had been sort of just placing items there and using that to film. Now I've kind of raised up and built a platform bench kind of between two side shelves here. I think it'll work a lot better and allow for more space, as well as being much easier to work on the systems and sort of reach everything and set up shots and everything like that. So hopefully it goes smoothly. You'll have to forgive if I have any audio or video issues as I make the adjustment to the new setup. I think it should work pretty good, but we'll see here after I do some editing. This video is going to be a continuation of the previous video where I showcased a large collection of DOS RPGs I picked up from a local seller. They were games from the mid-80s to the mid-90s and about 20 different games. Most of them were on 5.25 and 3.5 inch discs. There was one CD-ROM title. The 486 machine currently only has the GoTech hooked up, not the physical 5.25 or 3.5 inch drives. DOS PCs can only have 2 drives installed at a time unless you have a additional floppy controller card installed. So I'm going to have to make a decision longer term which of the 3 drives that I want hooked up all the time. But for the purposes of this video, I will probably install the 5.25 and 3.5 inch drives and get those configured so that we can try out games using both disk formats. Let's get the machine opened up, get those drives hooked up and configured, and let's start exploring. So we will start off by getting the machine opened up. So we've got the GoTech in the lower position here, the 3.5 inch drive. We've got the 5.25 and then the CD-ROM is on the top. So we can see there's just the GoTech is hooked up right now. It's on the end position. If you're not familiar with floppy cables on PCs, the end position on the cable usually has a twist, and the drive at the end will be the A drive, and the drive in the middle will be the B. So the floppy card connector is used on the 5.25 drive, and then the connector with the row of pins is the style used on the newer 3.5 inch drives. And the card connector is keyed, so there's a section with 2 pins, a divider, and then the rest of the connector, so it can only go on one way. I'm going to get the 5.25 on the end, so it will be the A drive in this configuration. So we've got that in place. And then one thing that was always annoying to me about these ribbon cables is I'd always end up having to do a twist. You can see there is a, I'm not sure if it'll show up on camera, but there's a light red dotted indicator down this side of the ribbon. That is pin 1. On a floppy drive, the newer 3.5 inch, the pin 1 tends to be on the far side from the side we're looking at here. So I'm going to actually need it in this orientation, which is going to be tricky with the way this cable is. Maybe this way here. So let me get that in place. So we're actually got a 180 turn from the way this drive is and the 3.5 inch drive. Before I get that in there, let me get the power connector. So the GoTech uses the smaller floppy style power connector. So I'll disconnect that, hook that up on the 3.5 drive, and then we'll get the ribbon cable hooked up. So I think that's everything we need. We got power on both drives, and we got the ribbon cable on both drives. So let me get this out of the camera here. Let's go into the BIOS. Okay, so it's actually defaulted for the floppy A drive to be a 1.2, 5 1/4, so that's already correct. And then our B is going to be the 3.5 inch. There we go. Also, I don't have a battery in the system at the moment, so I have to redetect the hard drive if it's been off for a while. So that looks good. And then there's no second drive. And I think we should be good to go ahead and test it out. I have 8 megs of RAM in the system. I hear both drives seeking on boot. Let's actually start with the Epson discs that came with the game collection. Let's go ahead and just do GW Basic, see if that's working. Drive doesn't sound great, but it seems to be working. GW Basic. GW Basic was actually the first programming environment that I worked in. As a kid, we had gotten a PC, it was an XT for sure, system that a friend had loaned us, and me and a friend in probably middle school age, I believe, learned GW Basic, and that was kind of our first programming experience. Just try out the standard there we go. Control break to stop. Okay, so it looks like the 5 1/4 disc is working. Let's go ahead and try out a disc, Bon Apetite program and recipe disc that came with the game collection. Let's see what this is. That's not good. Fail. Abort. Okay, so either it doesn't like the disk or that drive is having an issue. Let's try one more disk. No. One more. Same. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get the drive here swapped out with another drive, just so we can confirm, because I do have another one to try out, just to rule that out. All right, so we're back. I've got another drive here that I'm going to give a try. So before I go through the whole process of taking the screws out and getting the new drive mounted in there, I'm going to test it just hooked up externally. So let's go ahead and get that hooked up. So again, pin 1, and on the drive there's actually an arrow here, so generally it's pin 1 is going to be on this side of the floppy. So we've got that in place. And our power. Okay, now we should be able to test this out, because the one of the main reasons I don't want to swap it out initially is the drive is actually screwed in on both sides, but the motherboard tray is blocking the screw on the back side. I would need to take out all the expansion cards in order to unscrew that. So again, that's why I'm testing it this way initially. So let's go ahead and boot up the system. All right, let's try that Bon Appetit recipe disk again. Let's see, that's going to be B drive. Sounds good so far. There we go. Okay, so let's just real quick see what we got here. We've got a cookbook. Looks like there's some batch files for installing it to the hard drive, maybe. It doesn't like that. Oh, insert recipe disk and drive A, enter a key. So it doesn't like it running from B. Interesting. Okay, well, I doubt the recipe program would have been all that interesting anyway, but it looks like it was kind of a text-based program for managing your recipes. There's a recipe.txt. Type out the contents of that. I bet it's just all the recipes list out. No, it's a some kind of binary, or not binary, but not just a straight up text file at least. Unless it's corrupted. Okay, well, let's move on to another disk. Let's check out Darkspyre. This is a game I've never actually heard of. Okay. No executable, so just the install.com. Would you like to install to a hard disk? Yes. So it looks like even the game itself is a COM file, Darkspyre. One thing I don't like about this monitor is the it doesn't auto adjust between the graphics modes. I always have to So pretty cool intro screen there. And of course we have copy protection. Let me see if I can find my phone, look up what the runes of agility and sorcerer would be. Okay, so we're past the copy protection. Start a game fast with male character. I'll do that for now. So it looks like 1 and 2 are your, or 1 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 basically looks like all do attacks. Okay, so we got a spell book. Water. What's that? A liquefy scroll. Oh, there's a whole stack. Jera potion. Empty flask. It's interesting how much the scrolling lags behind the player movement. It takes a while for it to catch up. I think it's on purpose, but it's an interesting implementation there. Okay, well, again, I'm not going to go super in-depth in the games. I just wanted to check it out here, confirm the drive was working. So let's move on to another one. Before I move on to the next one, I'm going to go ahead and get this drive mounted in to replace the one that didn't seem to be working. Since I have to take the cards out anyway to swap out the drive, I thought I would do a quick show and tell on the cards that are in here. We have, for the video card, I have a VLB Diamond Speedstar Pro with 1 meg of video RAM. There is a Creative Labs AW32 model CT3600. I don't have any Sims installed, but generally just using FM synth on most of the games at this point. And then we have a 3Com Etherlink 3 network card. I had a previous video where I showed some DOS networking. If you're interested in that, I'll put a link in the description. So I've got the drive out. Ironically, it was actually the same, roughly the same model. Both were a Sony MPF 920. This is the -Z, the one that we tested that is working. The -1 is the one that was not working. I might just need to clean off the heads or something else. But for now, we'll get this one installed. From the back, they look the same pretty much. There is a jumper on the non-working one. I wonder if there could be potentially be something with that jumper setting that's off. But in any case, we'll get this one in, get everything put back together, and we'll continue doing some testing. The drives are all hooked up and tested now, and I've put the case back on, which helps a little bit with the crazy fan noise on these old systems. So let's go ahead and test out something else. How about let's take a look at Crusaders of the Dark Savant. So this is 256 color VGA, mouse or keyboard, 10 megahertz or faster, 640K, does have Sound Blaster. Let's give this a try. Looks like they're just using PK unzip, so V install. So 1992, Surtec software. Crusaders of the Dark Savant is all installed. Ironically, I couldn't get my mouse working, so I'm using a touchpad that's a serial mouse input. There's no PS2 inputs on this system, so I can only use a serial mouse at this point, but this should get me going at least. Let's go ahead and launch the game and see how it looks. This game was especially interesting to me because it is a sort of fantasy setting, but in space. So there's like interplanetary travel, but still a lot of the magic and the same classes and stuff that you would see in a regular RPG. Let's see if we can skip ahead a little bit. It's still amazing to me how much artwork they can fit onto 2 floppy disks. Okay, so I believe the game is kind of a point and click, first person sort of thing here. Yeah, so we can kind of traverse the world. We can make our campfire to rest. If I can use... No. Oh, we can. Okay, nice. Forward, left, right, back, but not the strafe. So you can use the numpad for navigation. And there's a path. Okay, well I think that was an interesting quick look at this game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And then I wanted to try at least one 5 1/4 game. So I'm going to take a look at Ultima VI here, which comes on a number of 5 1/4 discs. So they had, I think, 7 discs, as well as their character save discs. So let's go ahead and start with the program disk. Again, that drive is pretty squeaky. I think I need to oil it. All right, what do we have here? Looks like just Ultima VI. Looks like this is probably launching directly into the game. I'll have to see if there's a way to install. And we're not getting sound. No hard drive. Insert the disk in game. Copy. Okay, so it has this copied onto the hard drive. Okay, so let's exit out. Okay, so we want the end game disk for the install option. You can definitely see how swapping this many disks would quickly become tedious. Okay, so copy U6 from A to C. So it will be installed in Ultima VI on the C drive. All right. All right, so it's going to have me step through all the disks. I'm not going to have you sit through all that, but I'll come back when it's all done. So Ultima VI is now installed from the original game discs. 5 1/4 discs on the 486 machine. I'm actually recording this clip a little bit later than the previous clips. I'm going to try out a capture setup, which should make the screen a lot easier to see. It'd be a little tricky to go back and refilm the other sections, but at least for this game we'll have a video capture, and we'll give that a try. And hopefully that'll make future videos a lot easier for capturing. So let's go ahead and launch our game and see how it goes. So again, this is running directly from the hard drive now, as we've installed from the floppies. We've got our nice cloth map here to assist us on our adventures. And let's go in and take a quick look at Ultima VI. So we'll create a quick character here. So now we're in the actual game. Never actually played Ultima VI. So the sound effects come from the PC speaker, and the music is from the Sound Blaster. Probably playing terribly here. Okay, so I killed one of the demons. activate him. Let's talk to the king. And we're at the copy protection, where we would have to reference the compendium. Obviously, it's a very in-depth game and could be a whole huge long video. I just wanted to show some quick gameplay and get into the game. So that was a look at installing 3 of the games from the DOS RPG collection I recently picked up. We were able to get the 5 1/4 and 3.5 inch discs working on the 486 machine. I definitely really enjoyed hearing the old drive access sounds and being able to experience those games installing directly from the discs. I'll probably be going back and exploring more of the games in the collection, installing them from the original discs. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed seeing this or would like a more in-depth playthrough of any of the games in the collection. So that wraps it up for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.